I'm Kelly. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, guys. I first want to thank Cecily for introducing me and Olivia for asking me to speak. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. Young People's has a very special place in my heart. I got sober when I was 16, and my first home group in AA for the first 7 years of my sobriety was a Young People's meeting, and um, I got sober in I went to treatment in a large city where they took us to young people's meetings, and that kind of convinced me that I could do it, and that it also that getting sober was really cool before I got shipped back to Montana, where I'm from. And was in kind of the middle of nowhere with what I thought were really old people, but they were 21. Um, and yeah, so I kind of carried that vision of those young people's meetings with me in my sobriety. And a big part of my early sobriety was being on a Wacky Paw bid committee. It really plugged me in right away, and that's kind of one of the things I love the most about um, conferences and host committees and bid committees is that it's just a way for young people to get super plugged into AA and make friends and hang out, which is, I feel like, was crucially important for me, being a teenager trying to get sober. So I'm going to do a condensed version of my story, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. Um, I am definitely one of those people who thinks um, that I was born an alcoholic. I remember the first time I heard the phrase restless, irritable, and discontent. I think I was a week sober, and I was crying, of course. And this woman was like, "Oh, do you feel restless, irritable, and discontent?" And it stopped me in my tracks and was shocking, because I was like, "Yes, that's literally exactly how I feel." And it was how I had always felt. Um, and I was like, "Where did you get that?" And how did you know that? And she said, "It's in the book," which I, of course, immediately hated. I don't want to have the same problem that everyone else has. I want to have a really unique, special, and ideally unfixable problem that will allow me to just feel sorry for myself. But anyways, so I was just restless, irritable, and discontent from the get-go. um I definitely wouldn't say my family is really normal in any way, but they're not alcoholics, so I guess they have that going for them. I didn't grow up in an alcoholic household. And I was always, I don't know, my mom has all these books, parenting the difficult child, and what to do, if your 7-year-old is incredibly mysterious. And I just was yeah, I always felt like I needed to do something. I was always acting out in some way. There was always something um going on with me. And I also, so I was around, even in my drinking, I didn't come from an alcoholic family. And then I was also around, my friends were really, I would say, lovely, well-adjusted people. And so there was always a huge difference in me and them, just the way I acted, but also especially when I started drinking, there was, from the very beginning of my drinking, a huge difference between the way I drank and the way my friends drank, or the way I saw literally anyone around me drank. I didn't even know, it wasn't even until I got sober and was in AA that I met other people that had blackouts. And I had a blackout every time I drank, but that's how normal the people I was around were. And it was super annoying. But anyway, so there's a really big difference from the beginning. But when I first started drinking, I was like, "This is incredible. This is what I've always been looking for. This is the solution to this kind of restless, irritable discontent that I've had my whole life." And I felt like I could be myself, and I could be funny, and I was cool. And I was pretty much right away I'm willing to, like, this is it, this is my thing, this is like, I'm willing to do whatever I have to. Like, this is, I was just pretty single-minded in my pursuit of like getting loaded pretty immediately. And so obviously, you know, given how young I got sober, things really progressed very quickly. And towards the end of my drinking, I just remember waking up every day and I could not, um, I kind of couldn't believe how weird my life was and how bad things were. Like I think part of, like, I mean, I felt the kind of first part of me hitting bottom was that I just felt terrible all the time, and like drinking wasn't giving me the relief that it once was. Like the best it got for me was really just being passed out, and my life had become so small, and so like I had become unable to do, I had so few responsibilities. Like literally all I had to do was attend high school, and I couldn't do that at all. And I just, yeah, I could not, my whole goal in my drinking was just to kind of like fly under the radar and have people think that I was doing well enough, basically, just to like not pay any attention to me and leave me alone. And I wasn't succeeding in that at all. I was constantly having people trying to intervene. And then kind of the other thing towards the end of my drinking was that I was just felt so alone. I had so many, like I felt like I was living a double life. Like I was trying to appear normal, and a lot of the stuff I was doing I knew was so socially unacceptable that I was attempting to keep it a secret. And I just had this sense of like that I could see people living their normal lives and doing normal things and being fine, and I felt like I was like just trapped in this parallel universe that was like a hellscape, basically, where I couldn't stop drinking and using. And so that's kind of where I was when I got introduced to AA through treatment. I was not stoked. I was not happy at all. It was, yeah, I was not happy at all. I remember getting sober and being 16 and having these like older people in meetings just come over to me like absolutely beaming, like so jazzed, and just being like, oh my God, it's so incredible that you're here. You know, like you're so lucky and you're so smart for getting here at your age. And I always think it's like so funny, the perspective that we have in AA, that like other, like not, like no one else, like not my mom, not my guidance counselor, not my friend's parents, like no one would have been like, oh yeah, this like 16-year-old who's in rehab is like A, lucky, and B, really smart. But I but yeah, I just didn't feel like I was like really, I couldn't imagine anything less cool than like whatever, finding a higher power and being a member of AA. But I was really desperate. I was really, like I was talking about before, I was like excruciatingly miserable. And I do remember like right before I got sober, I was like, oh, like no one could possibly be in more emotional pain than I am right now. And then I got sober and I was like, oh my God, like this is so much worse. I just remember in early sobriety, yeah, just waking up in the morning and being like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this day without literally ripping my face off. Like I could not stand being in my own head. Like it was like I would wake up and be like, I can't wait to go back to bed. I can't, like I can't take it. And so I was really desperate. And the treatment center that I was at, made us get sponsors, and I didn't know, I didn't really know what a sponsor was. Like I heard people talk, like they took us to meetings and I heard people talking about them um, in meetings. And other than, I think at my very first meeting, which I was not even sober at, this guy was sharing about his sponsor. And I was like, I want to sponsor somebody. So that's a huge red flag for me as a person. But other than that, like I was like, all I knew about sponsorship was from movies. So I was like, okay, like this is someone that I'm gonna get and I'm gonna call them and cry, like I guess. And I was like, I really don't feel like I need this, like I can cry alone. And anyway, so I got a sponsor, and much to my surprise, she had me start, like she just gave me like a bunch of stuff to do. And I met with her every week. And what happened was that like I did the stuff she told me to do, kind of against my better judgment. And one of the things that I love about AA that really kind of like had me let my guard down when I came in is that no one in AA would argue with me about stuff. Like I came in being like trying to fight with people about a higher power, being like, how do you know there is one? And they'd tell me and I'd be like, that's dumb. Like whatever. And they'd be like, okay, like it's fine. Like you don't have to believe, like you don't have, people are very much like, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. Like if you want to get like work the steps and get sober, that's up to you. Like we're not gonna make you. That's your thing. And just like no one was invested in like forcing me to do anything. And so I kind of like, once people weren't arguing with me, I was kind of like, oh, okay, like if there's nothing to really like fight against, I became open-minded enough to try it. And so I started like feeling little bit by little bit, and really at that point, like it was any little bit of feeling better that I could get was amazing. So I started feeling better with the stuff that my sponsor was having me do. And um I I had been in meetings and I had been listening to people talk about what the program had done for them, how they felt, like how grateful they were, blah blah blah. And I just wasn't buying it really at all. I don't know. I mean, I was like completely delusional to think that large groups of people would gather together at like 7 or 8 p.m. every night to like gaslight me into thinking that they liked being sober. But that is what I thought they were doing. And it wasn't until I got a sponsor and like started doing the steps that I was like, oh my God, you know, they like this, there might actually be something to this. And I started to like kind of piece together what people had been saying to me, and it started to fall into place that that potentially what I could get in AA was not just being sober, but that I could get a solution for that like feeling of restless, irritable, and discontent, and just kind of like needing something extra that I had my whole life. And that was interesting to me because that's what I wanted. That's what I always wanted, was just to be able to be like comfortable in my own skin, basically. And I started to, something that people in AA told me over and over again when I got sober that started to sink in as well, was I would, complain all that, be like, I don't get it. Like, I'm sober. I feel terrible. Like, aren't I supposed to feel better? And they were like, actually, no. If you're a real alcoholic, like you'll feel worse sober. And like, that's the whole point of working the steps. And like, that is what's going to help you feel better. And that has been my experience. I do also feel like, so because I was surrounded by non-alcoholics my whole life, I was very easily like able to just like manipulate people and make them feel sorry for me. And I like, it's so hard for me, whatever, I'm so different, I'm just like very, very deep, very, very emotional, Um, and AA was the first place I wasn't able to do that. Like everyone understood me and they were just like, yeah, like no. And I remember I remember one time like crying to this woman and she was just like, it's so amazing that you have the gift of desperation. She's like, this is so wonderful. And I was like, these people are the worst. But it was yeah, it was exactly what I needed. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be and I still feel that in meetings where I'm like, yes, like these people get me. We're all like kind of yeah, we're all the same. So um anyways, so I um yeah, I worked the steps with a sponsor. I got a when I got out of treatment, I got, like I was saying, that a young people's group as my home group, and got into got into service. And I was kind of thinking, just being on a Zoom meeting, which I haven't been on one in a while, so it's cool. Or at like a Zoom meeting, not committee meeting. And I was just thinking about what the role that like service has played in my sobriety. And one of the things that I always think about is like when the pandemic hit, I was really involved in my home group at the time. So then because of that, I was really involved in like getting my home group on Zoom and like setting all that up and doing all that stuff. And I feel like that um because I had a routine of being of service, um it like I was already plugged in, and it kind of like it kept me connected during a really um crazy time, because I never could have imagined um yeah, I never could have imagined like when I whatever was first getting sober, that I'd be like on a virtual AA meeting or during a global pandemic. It was a crazy time. But yeah, I was really grateful for service then. And I always feel like um, being of service is a way that I mean, it's always like a welcome break for me to stop thinking about myself. And B, I feel like it's been a way over the course of my sobriety to just stay really enthusiastic about my program and about being in AA. And yeah, being of service in all capacities at my home group. It's been really fun to be on this TXSCYPAA committee, and I hope that everyone is able to make it to TXSCYPAA. But home group sponsorship, like all those things, keep me connected to AA, but also add just a lot of joy to my sobriety and a lot of enthusiasm as well. So anyways, that's all I've got. And for my topic, let's talk about service.